baby, listen to me speak, yeah. No matter what, just let it go.
Pop, persuadable. What's going on, boo-boos? Alright. There was a petite psychic running from the police. You could say that she was a small medium at large. I Googled that. I did. I love these dad jokes. Anyways, hi everyone. So today we are going to talk about women and the 6-foot standard. There's a direction that my channel is going in where I just have some gameplay of a video game that I'm playing. Hopefully that's relatable. Where we can also talk about what my thoughts and opinions are on various aspects. It's a direction that the channel is going in. I don't want to keep talking about this in the beginning of every single video I make because it really delays the video and I want to get right into it. So, and of course my channel is still going to have, the typical stuff. So anyways, let's talk about the 6-foot standard, all right? Persway, what are your thoughts about women and the 6-foot standard, especially as a guy who is not only single, but is 5'9". So first and foremost, I want to let you know, I am so glad I never knew about this. I'm probably dumb. I am dumb. I'm handsome, but I'm dumb. I knew that women always preferred taller men, but I never knew it was 6 foot. You know what I mean? Like all throughout high school and early college, out of all the insecurities I've ever had in my life, this is never one of them. Because, I'm 5'9". I'm average, I think. So it was never really that big of a concern. And I never ever in my entire life, at least up until about 23, 24, had a woman tell me, I'm not really you're short. So I guess I've been blessed. I'm glad that I missed that insecurity curve because it probably would have destroyed me when I was younger. At least internally. so I'm glad that I missed that curve. I didn't realize this was a thing until I was 25. But the way that I look at it is that if women prefer men who are 6 feet or taller, I say good for them. And the reason being so is that I think, especially us men, we get mad over this standard for 2 reasons. 1, in my opinion, sexual inferiority, and 2, just general hatred of women. And I actually blame culture for this because, especially on the online digital age, men were conditioned to really hate women. I mean, we got Gamersgate, we got all these different things that have historically been there, okay? And you might say, okay, Persway, why do you think that? First is first, all right? So I want to talk about the concept of having standards. See, if it doesn't matter what a woman's standards are, if they are not my significant other, I don't care. And this is a very important lesson in life. Because somebody can have a standard that I vehemently disagree about, theoretically, but I'm not going to waste the energy in trying to convince them that their priorities are wrong. I'm not going to try to tell them where their priorities should be because everybody has standards. And it just so happens that when a woman has standards, there's a lot of backlash. Like, for instance, Persway has standards. I prefer, key quote there, prefer women who are shorter than 5'2", 5'3". I prefer short women. I am very, very much so attracted to women. Now, if somebody gets offended by this standard, it could either be their own insecurity or it could be a philosophical difference. Either way, I don't really care because I'm not trying to get into a debate. I'm not trying to have you convince me what my priorities should be. I'm a grown man, right? So that's why when a woman tells me she prefers a man 6 feet or taller, it's all right, cool. That's it. That's it. The conversation's over at that point. In regards to having the conversation of standards, we all have standards. So now, as I've gotten older, my standards start to shift a little bit. When I was, 19, 20 years old, it was really heavily focused on physical attraction. Now that I'm 32, it's I still have physical attraction standards. I do still prefer women who are shorter than me, right? But I've dated women who are my height, and I've been in casual flings with women who are taller than me. Shout out to the tall chicks. You got legs for days, and Persway loves chicken wings and legs. That's terrible. I shouldn't have said that, but whatever, I did. So as I got older, though, I realized that physical attraction is obviously important. I'm not going to say it's not. But when I go out on a date or if I'm talking to a woman, I am so much more involved in trying to figure out who they are emotionally, who they are as a person? Are they going to nag at me for the stupidest shit? Are they going to criticize me for who I am as a person, even though I got a good heart? Are they going to lack energy and effort? Would they be able to sacrifice what's necessary as long as it's a healthy sacrifice to make the relationship work? Are they going to be a brat, child, and immature? All right, my mic cut out. My bad. So I look at these things as being more important. That this is how I've grown into being a man. But physical attraction and standards are still there. But nobody's hating me for them. Nobody is saying, Persway, go fucking die, right? And so when women have standards, there's a backlash to it. Oh, they prefer men who are 6 feet tall. That's so shallow. But why? They're allowed to have that standard. And if they continue developing and growing, as most of us do, that standard may never change, or it could. Whereas they get older, they may say, you know what, this guy's 5'9", but I'm more interested in these emotional and spiritual things. Can he provide that? And even if they never change, it doesn't need to be changed. It can be exactly how it is. A standard of 6 feet or taller. Now, I think it has to do with sexual inferiority, to be honest with you. I think a lot of men, we don't like when women are sexually superior to us. We've been conditioned as that. Part of that is social and part of that is biological. You look at the animal kingdom, right? And there's many examples. One, peacocks versus peahens. Peacocks have these vibrant, beautiful feathers, and peahens are pretty ugly. And they're all women or females, right? And so the male peacocks use these colors to court. It's their responsibility to mate. And so I think to a degree we see a lot of that where even some women, not all, some, prefer men who do that. And so when men find out that their colors aren't beautiful or that there are traits about them, it turns into this sort of hatred, and it's unjustified. It's not justified. It's unjustified. And so you get this backlash where it's like, wow, she has a standard, 6 feet tall. I'm a nice. Then you get into the whole fucking nice guy culture. No nice guy calls himself a nice guy. None. I can't stand that culture at all. I think that when it comes to it, we all have standards. I feel like if we meet a woman who we feel sexually inferior to, that we can't mate, some men, unfortunately, get extremely defensive, and it feeds into that whole hatred of women. Now, that's, of course, my opinion. Because when I have a standard, nobody, like I said, we mentioned this before, nobody hates me for it. I'm allowed to. And so, how do I deal with the whole 6 foot standard, right? Now, this isn't general advice to men. This is just me, talking about me, right? Persway, spotlight is on me, selfish, it's all about me. I know that sounds, the way it sounds, but it's really because I'm not that big on giving people advice, because 95% of people probably shouldn't be given advice. But anyways, I have dealt with women recently, after the age of 25, who have not been interested in men under 6 feet tall. And there was this one instance. I was at a bar. I'm going to share. I was at a bar. I really fancied this woman. She was a very, very, very elegant, pretty woman. Oh, she had a red dress on, red lipstick. Not a fan of red lipstick. Don't ask me why. I'm just not. But it doesn't matter. Women can do what they want. They don't do it for me. But she rocked it. She rocked the shit out of it. And so I was like, I'm going to go talk to her. Like, that's just my personality. I feel like I'm a very welcome and comforting person, but I'm not just going to sit there and just think about it. And so I did. I went up to her. I asked her if I could join her. She said yes. That's usually my strategy. May I join you? If somebody says no or they're not interested in it, then that's fine. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to see if there's a vibe. And that's a two-way vibe. Right? So this whole pressure on it has to be my responsibility to woo you is nonsense. I'll be polite. I'll be funny. I'll be kind. I'll be inviting. But I need some of those things back. Right? And if I don't have them, I'm definitely going to walk away. I'm not, again. So we were talking. We had a pretty good vibe, actually. We had a really, at least I thought we had a really great vibe. And so we got into the conversation. This is the first time, at least after the age of 23, that I heard about this whole 6 foot thing, and we were talking about what our interests are and what we're into. And she said, some one way or another, there was alcohol involved. She told me she was not into men who were shorter than 6 feet. And I looked at her and I said, that's fair. I want to share a story with you. Again, I'm not giving you advice. Don't be like me, because it's just embarrassing. My whole life is an embarrassment. And so she was like, all right, what's the story you got? And I was like, listen, when I was a little kid, right, my family put me into the YMCA. And in the YMCA, we had to do this thing where there's this big fucking wall, like 20 feet long. And it's this big, big wall. And you and your group of people have to climb up that wall together. But it's a smooth wall, so there's nothing for you to grab on. It's not like rock climbing. It's just a big, big flat wall, super high. And you as your team need to figure out how all of you can get onto that platform. And through negotiating as a team and learning, you learn how to climb on top of each other. You learn how to get on the platform. You learn how to hang down and lift people up. It's a really good team building exercise. And I said, the reason why that applies is that although I am not 6 feet tall, I'm really able to do this task very well. So if you and I ever have cabinets that are too high, we can find a way to climb on top of each other to get the dishes down. Yo, she started laughing. Now that she started laughing, and it worked. It worked. We had a fantastic time. We actually dated for a little bit. Now here's the thing, okay? This easily could not have worked. If you don't have that personality that uses humor, it's not going to work. And if you're working with somebody who doesn't appreciate that side of you, or that silly side, there's a lot of women who probably will listen to that and be like, that is so fucking stupid. They're allowed to feel that way, right? Because we focus inwardly. And that's really what life is all about from my perspective. So as a single man, if I am working with a woman who prefers a man who is over 6 feet tall, I just have to remind myself that I have preferences as well. And I have this idea of the perfect person for me with all of the physical attributes, but it's not always going to work that way for me personally. And then I could be working with somebody who is like, no, 6 feet is it's a hard line for me. But that's perfectly fine. If you get angry, if you get upset, it's rooted in the insecurity and the sexual inferior feeling that you're having. And it's not good for us men to allow that to brew into hatred. Because that's what ends up happening. This hatred of women, this incel culture that happens. And it is unjustified. People are allowed to have standards. And if you're focused on other people and focused on other people's standards and how you can't meet those standards, then you're never focusing on you, the inward self. You're only focused on society, how you can't reach those expectations. And then you get the whole, I give up, I don't give a fuck, I'm not going to try because when I do, it doesn't work. When in reality, if you were focusing on being good-natured, having good morals, being a good man, focusing on yourself to be a better person, you need to be ready for when you meet that person that is meant for you, if monogamy is what you are seeking. But you're never going to get there if you're focused on this hatred of standards that you have no control over. And really, it's humiliating when we try to regulate what other people's standards are. They're allowed to have those standards. That's what it comes down to. Somebody could date the biggest piece of shit in the world, but he's over 6 feet tall. It's none of your business. You're not going to do anything about it. That person's journey is their own journey. Can you imagine in the story that I gave you, if I actually tried to argue the woman about her standards? Could you believe that? Imagine me mansplaining to her what her fucking standards could be. It'd be nonsense. Because I got standards too. Now there's times where I'll meet a woman, like I said, who is 5'7", 5'8", 5 whatever, that I normally wouldn't prefer, but you get to meet them and get to know them, and I'm like, hell yeah. So my standards, certain standards are flexible. I have hard standards as well. I prefer a woman who is emotionally intelligent. I prefer a woman who doesn't gaslight me. I prefer a woman who doesn't come up with the stupidest excuses, who can't admit that they're wrong, lacks accountability, and doesn't put any effort in. But in order to do those things, is that just the 6 foot standard version of emotional and social intelligence? Some people will never be able to do those things, even with therapy, because they have things, barriers that prevent them. The way that my leg bones prevent me from being 6 feet tall, there's hardwiring in the brain that can prevent people from really taking off and being emotionally and socially intelligent. So maybe my standards, that hard line that I have of those standards, are unbecoming of many people who will never be able to meet that. And so, is it, like I said, that might be the 6 foot tall standard of emotional and social intelligence, and I would never want anyone to fucking preach to me about what my standards should or should not be. I think, in conclusion, the 6 foot standard is not a big deal. There's nothing you can do about it. It's rooted in insecurities and hatred for women. And I can tell you this much. If you focus on that and not on yourself, you're going to go down the wrong road. And when you meet somebody, you won't be ready for them. Bye-bye. And just a quick disclaimer, I am going to add a quick edit. Just remember, I do these videos in one take for the most part, except this note. So sometimes if I'm saying women or men, it could be some women or some men, not all. And of course, this conversation can extend into other scenarios that I'm unfamiliar with, but I'm just providing my perspective as a 5'9" man. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you guys can provide me your own opinions.